Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So, you have me recording on not a Tuesday today. We're headed out of town for 4th of July next week, and so I wanted to get this done so that I wasn't missing you guys. So today we're going to talk about adaptability. And the reason I bring this up is because I noticed the last few Mondays have been fairly hectic for me. And partly because we're coordinating flipping some properties, and the contractors just seem to call first thing Monday morning. And so 2 weeks in a row were frazzled Mondays because there was a lot of phone calls and a lot of coordination that I had not been prepared for. And I like to start my week pretty low key. I don't like to hit the ground running. I like to really just ease into the week. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are usually my higher to-do lists. Well, you have it. Longer to-do lists, right? Where Monday's like, okay, let's go grocery shopping. Let's set our week up for success. Let's not plan a whole lot of things to do on Monday. And a couple weeks in a row, like 8 a.m., I was getting phone calls from contractors or from, the Lowe's store or whatever else, right? There were a lot of phone calls and coordination coming in on Monday. And so that was a couple Mondays in a row. And so I said, okay, so this past Monday, I said, okay, be prepared that someone might call you needing something, contractor-wise. Just be prepared for it. Don't let it ruin your whole day. Don't let it throw you off. So, sure enough, contractors called on Monday. There was some stuff that we needed to coordinate, and it went way better because I was anticipating it, right? Now, part of this is, what about the things that you can't anticipate? Things that just show up out of the blue and you're like, I don't even know how to manage that. And that is partly adaptability, but it's also partly perception. It's partly what you're making the thing mean, even if it's unconsciously. So I noticed that I was making it mean that I couldn't control my day. It was very much out of my control very quickly, is how I felt. And when I feel out of control, my anxiety goes through the roof and overwhelm joins it. And then I start to spiral, and the negative conversation in my head begins. And so I had to remind myself, right? Like, there may be things that you can't control here, but that doesn't mean that your whole day is gone, and that doesn't mean that we spiral into overwhelm. And so I actually did catch myself really, when I felt it coming, I started to do some tapping and reset my nervous system so that I wasn't letting it overflow into other areas of my life. And that was super helpful. My husband just gave me a side eye and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm trying to regain control of the day and not let it just all go sideways and melt away from me. I said, this thing isn't something that I can control specifically. I said, but it doesn't mean that the rest of the day is just going to go off the rails too. And it did. It worked really well. And the reason I do this is because I know that my energy has such a huge impact on the rest of the house. And when I stay grounded in the midst of the chaos, it doesn't trickle into everybody else typically. And so that has been really, really, really helpful. So when it comes to kind of anticipating the unexpected, right? Unexpected things are going to happen. And the best way to manage them really is to have the space in it, right? I remember having a conversation with a client one time. She texted me and she was like, I'm running late. I'll be there, I'll be on a call shortly. I said, okay, that's fine. And she got on the phone with me and she said, had people driven the right way, I wouldn't have been late. And I stopped her right there. And I said, had you not planned your day down to the second, you would have had space to adjust for the the drivers that were driving slower. I said, so it's not a matter of people ruined your day. I said it was a matter of you scheduled it too tight that you didn't have the space to adjust to it. And this is often what happens both energetically and spatially. And so when you start to when you start to go into overwhelm, you're actually losing the space. You're tightening, you're winding yourself up, right? So that there's no space for that situation to actually go the way that you want it to. Same thing with time. If you are scheduling yourself down to the second and one little thing is going to derail your entire day, that is where you need the space. And again, both energetically and spatially, so time. When you can give yourself that space, it allows you to actually handle things better and adapt much faster and much more easily than it would if you do have yourself booked like that, right? And so when it comes to kind of these unexpected things, give yourself space for it. This was one thing that really benefited me when my kids were younger, because yes, I was working, I was doing a bunch of things, but I also knew that I wanted to be a present mom. I was growing my businesses, and so I had said to them, not to them, sorry, just got interrupted here. This is what happens. I scheduled myself with gaps in the day because I couldn't plan those things. I didn't know any of the things that were going to happen, right? Like, you don't know if the baby's not going to nap. You don't know if a kid's going to fall and, hurt themselves, and then you end up in the ER all day. And so I made sure that my schedule had gaps in it. And I know that now, taking that stuff from spatially, right? The spatial awareness there, and bringing that into my nervous system, blah, 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 blah. My nervous system has been incredibly helpful in managing my energy throughout the day, because I have the space to, one, I can freak out if I want, right? Like, there have been times where I have just gone into the bedroom and screamed into a pillow to just move the energy. Or what's really helpful is when I work out. When I work out, when I exercise, that really helps me to shift the energy and to move it. Bike rides have been incredibly therapeutic for me the last few weeks. And so I will move that energy. I have the space to move that energy. And so then my nervous system doesn't feel like it's under attack all the time, which allows my emotional intelligence to be greater and to handle the expansion that's actually happening right now. So expansion comes with, certainly, right? The greater the reward, the greater the responsibility. And so when you are going after something with a greater reward, there will be more responsibility that is put on top of you. And being able to manage your energy is very important for those kinds of things, because otherwise you're just wreaking havoc on your nervous system, and then your nervous system is going to spiral, and it's all going to come crashing down on you anyways, which is not where we want to be. So my recommendation for this is to start to pay attention to the patterns, right? Start to pay attention to kind of the reoccurring things that come up, and kind of run through it on your own, right? This is the beauty of emotional intelligence and adaptability, is that if you can run through a similar scenario prior to, then you already know how you want to respond, and you're not knee-jerk reacting and spiraling into just emotion. Because emotional intelligence is a balance, right? When your emotions are high, your intelligence is low. And when your intelligence is high, your emotions are typically low. That's just how it works, right? They just work that way. One's always up or down, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one, but that's how it works, which is why when you get in an argument with someone and your emotions are out of control, you just jibber jabber stuff. You're not entirely sure what's coming out of your mouth, because you're simply reacting as opposed to responding. And so if you are catching yourself in these situations where you're noticing, this is causing overwhelm, this is causing stress, this is making me crazy, this is ruining my whole day, add some adaptability into it where you go, okay, this happened the last 2 Mondays in a row. I don't want it to set my week off like it has the last 2 Mondays. So how can I adjust this? How can I respond to this differently in a way that is beneficial so that we can still make progress on X, Y, or Z, but it doesn't throw my nervous system into a tizzy? Okay, so start to recognize the patterns, then choose how it is that you actually want to respond and play those out in your mind, right? It's not going to go perfect the first time. And maybe there is a slip up where your emotions spew out on somebody, right? But the beauty of it is that you get to try again. You get to learn again here too. So I hope this helped. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Instagram, Stephanie Snyder, Ph.D., or you can head over to my website, stephaniesnyderphd.com. I would love to connect with you there. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.